Welcome to the Steelers Realm Podcast. And now, here are the boys of Steelers Realm.
Good evening, Steelers Nation. That's right. FTA's back in the house. Took a little break, y'all, but you know what? I'm back and we're ready to talk. Because right now, what I'm wondering is it the con man or getting conned? But before we get into all that, let's bring on my esteemed guest for the evening. You guessed it. It's me and the producer. Producer,
What's
how
up,
are
man?
you, buddy?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, man?
You know, I am not doing too bad, buddy. I feel
It's
a little
great to hear.
refreshed. I took a little vacation down the south of the border, man, down to Mexico. I tell
Where
you
were
what,
you?
I was down in a little place called Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, you were.
Oh, I was. I tell you what, it was kind of nice to be down in there. So, but now I got from my toes in the sand back to Steelers Nation. And let me tell you, Steelers Nation is far and wide. Because while I was down there in Mexico, I actually did talk to a few of our Steelers brethren, and they are just about as in shock as probably what we are up here in the U.S. And I got some pretty good paraphernalia down there. I tell you what, the Mexicans really do make some great artwork, especially when it comes to the beloved Steelers. So, what have you been up to, producer?
Just chilling. How about yourself?
Oh, I just told you.
Oh,
You
that's
didn't hear
very
me?
nice.
That's
Oh,
very,
so it's some family stuff to do. What about you?
there's some family stuff. Are you hearing me? Did you hear my story at all?
Oh, I heard you went to Mexico or somewhere overseas. You were somewhere.
And that was it.
You're doing something. I wasn't really paying attention.
Oh my goodness, guys, it's going to be a long night. Me and the producer, I got to drag him along. So let me reel him in now. Let's just get started. Let's go ahead and first of all, let's talk a little free agency here. I want to know, producer, are you happy with what the con man's done?
I'm fairly happy. He's made some, good moves. Our wide receivers a lot better. Our cornerbacks a lot better. We're getting better.
Well, let's break down into that. I really want to know there's got to be another plan. You bring in DK and you lose a second round. Okay. Now, does that mean that George is on his way out the door?
Yep.
Yep, that's it. No more, no less. Yep.
Well, so what were you saying again?
Losing a second round pick to bring in DK Metcalf.
Yeah, that's that's not a bad move. I like adding him. He's a good player. Really upgrades our wide receiver room. I like the move. What about you?
Well, if it upgrades the wide receiver room, and we're talking about trading George Pickens, are we really upgrading the wide receiver room?
Well, I don't know if we're trading him quite so fast,
Well, you got to kind of wonder because, we did go ahead and re-sign Ben Skowronek, and I, Skowronek, really do like Ben. And we brought back Scotty Miller, who we really didn't utilize last year. Now, of course, we will not be bringing back Mike Williams or Van Jefferson. So that leaves us with Mr. Austin, hopefully to continue. But I'm just not understanding the whole DK Metcalf trade.
Well, I think we saw a need on our team. Van Jefferson was, let's just say, not the best wide receiver, so we wanted to go get a wide receiver finally, get somebody who we can throw the ball to. When George Pickens went down, it's pretty obvious we had nobody else to throw the ball to.
But again, if we go ahead and trade George and DK goes down, who are you throwing the ball to? I Skowronek?
I don't know. But, if your top two guys go down, you're kind of screwed anyways. Not much you can do.
It's not only are we screwed there, but I'm also kind of concerned right now that we don't have a quarterback. Is Rudolph going to save Christmas for us this year?
I might be praying that he does because there's no quarterback currently. But, there's a couple guys we're poking around on, guys like Rodgers and Russ, God forbid. But
All right,
there's some options out there.
come on now. Let's break this down here a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
Rodgers is toying with everybody again, which to me, if I was the Steelers, I'd tell him to go pound salt. Because look at it this way. If he doesn't want to make a decision now to be on your team and you went out and got Metcalf to hopefully entice him in there and he hasn't made a decision, why am I still chasing you? Because only that tells me is somewhere down the road, you're going to give up on your teammates because you don't care. You're a narcissistic SOB who does not care about anybody but yourself. So why would I want him on my team?
Yeah, I don't know why anybody would want him, honestly, if he's going to act like that.
But I also feel that at the same time, we've alienated Russ. Not saying that Russ, by any stretch of the imagination, is a savior. I'm pretty sure that the last 5-game losing streak was just the NFL telling us that, hey, we caught back up onto Russ's ways. He's pretty easy to shut down. We hope you bring him back. But what's even more concerning is that the Steelers have basically told him, more or less, hey, we're waiting for Rodgers, and if Rodgers doesn't come knocking, we'll give your agent a call. Now, would you? You're playing second fiddle again. So why would you come?
No, I'm paying attention. Don't worry.
Why would
Rodgers,
you come?
I don't think he's as good as he used to be. I mean, he's just washed at this point. I wouldn't really bring him in, especially with the way he's acting. He's just not behaving correctly, and you shouldn't reward that type of behavior.
Look at you, young man, talking like a parent.
Yeah, of course,
Shouldn't
man.
award that type of behavior. I couldn't agree with you more. We should not be rewarded. So why are we on Rodgers watch every day? Why can't the Steelers do what the Vikings did and come out and said, he is no longer wanted. Go enjoy your time with the New York Giants.
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah, no, I don't know why we would want him, honestly. I mean, he had some, good years with the Packers in the past, but those are long gone. I just don't see it at this point. He's 42. He'll be that when the league starts. He's had several injuries. I view him as pretty similar to Russell Wilson. Both guys, older veterans in that mold who don't really offer much upside. Well, they're probably going even more downhill, like we saw Russ going downhill the last 5 games of the season. We'd probably see more of that with Rodgers, honestly, if we did get him.
Well, and here's the thing. We lost out on Justin Fields. And, the pundits were all making us believe that Justin was basically a $10 million a year quarterback. He was going to be a pretty cheap guy to go ahead and get. And then he turns around and he signs for $40 million with the New York Jets.
Yeah, that's a little
$40
bit
million.
rich.
38 of that was guaranteed.
The hell? 30, I think, was still a lot.
Well, 30. It is a lot. But now, when we stop and look at it, hell, we can't even get Joshua Dobbs. He's already re-signed with the Patriots.
What the hell?
I know. So
Crazy.
Our Pickens are a little slim on the quarterback stage, buddy.
Yeah, I don't get that. That's crazy to me. Makes no sense.
And then we even let Kyle Allen walk out the door.
What the hell? He was nice. He had one good throw? That's all we needed from him.
Hey, one good throw is better than no throws at all. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, is the con man getting conned? Did they get whitewashed by Aaron Rodgers and let Justin Fields walk to only now be cucked by Rodgers and the Vikings, which now doesn't want Rodgers?
Well, they didn't want Rodgers. I mean, they have a rookie quarterback who they're excited about, but, I was assuming they'd bring Rodgers in. Kind of surprised they're out on him. But if they don't want him, it's probably not a good sign. It's clearly signaling if they don't want him, we shouldn't probably want him either because it's a red flag, man.
I agree. It's a red flag. And it's concerning that here we are and we don't have a quarterback. And I have a feeling with the way things are going right now, we are going to end up going into the draft basically against the gun in a weak quarterback class and going to have to pull the trigger on one of these guys.
Well, yeah, it's very similar to the Kenny Pickett situation where we had a few years ago. We're in the same boat again. And it's like, do you reach for a quarterback in the first round, especially when you don't have a second round pick to go get a guy who might fall to the mid second round? So we're kind of putting ourselves, in that situation where we kind of have to maybe draft a quarterback if we don't get any of these guys that are free agents currently.
And you want to know what my biggest fear is right now? Is that
Yep.
now we have become the Cleveland Browns, which I may add, do not really have a quarterback at this time either.
Well,
However,
they actually have Kenny Pickett on the roster, right? So,
again, like I said, they don't have a quarterback at this time, right? I mean, look, Philadelphia was okay with getting rid of him, right?
Mhm.
Cleveland
Yeah.
picked him up. I think Cleveland will run with him for the year, hoping that Deshaun comes back, better than ever. But, that's not going to end up happening. So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, are we running that risk now of drafting a bad quarterback in Kenny Pickett's? Now here we are 2 years later, drafting another bad quarterback in this year's draft, only to do it again 2 more years from now and draft another bad quarterback. Are we getting ready to fall into the Cleveland Browns scenario where they've gone through 42,000 quarterbacks in the last 2 decades?
Well, we might if we keep up not finding the right quarterbacks, the right guys. We're gonna keep being in this situation. We'll be in QB purgatory like we were for the decades before we found Ben. You know, so it's just tough, man. Not having a quarterback because that's what really matters in this league. It's a QB league, and if you don't have one of those guys, you're not gonna be competing. You have no shot at winning at all.
So let me ask you something. What do you feel about either taking a serious look at Joe Flacco, which we could get on the cheap,
Yep.
or a Trey Lance that everybody has seemed to given up on? Oh, look at you. You weren't ready for that question, were you?
All right, fire it up to me again.
All right. So, what do you think about picking up a Joe Flacco
Uh,
or taking a chance on Trey Lance, who everybody else has given up on?
uh, I mean, I'd probably go with somebody who's upside between the two of those if I had to choose. Between the two of those. So probably go with somebody like Trey Lance or whoever's available. We tried the veteran route with Russell Wilson. It just didn't work. So, we got to try something else, see if it works.
Well, old DJ's no on Joe. So Flacco's out the door. So that really leaves us Trey Lance because when you look at the market right now, and the last thing, if we go out and sign Jameis Winston, then we just might as well go ahead and sit at home on Sundays and learn how to crochet because it's going to be a lot better watching than the defensive ends, or I'm sorry, defensive backs doing pick sixes all game long, all season long.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be tough to watch. Winston, he's turnover machine. Unfortunately, uh, there's just not a lot of great options. Frankly, it's like pick your poison at this point. You know, we're in a tough. We're putting ourselves in a corner and leaving us with like almost no options. I guess when you're in such a bad situation, Rodgers seems good to you, even though he's not the ideal choice.
Well, the best thing that I seen this week come out, and I just want to put a shout out to Cam Hayward. I loved what he had to say. Look, you either want to be a Steeler or you don't, but don't play Mickey Mouse games with us. And I hope he plays someplace else and we get a chance to play him this year because I got a feeling there's a big guy waiting to go ahead and pancake his ass.
Yeah, there might be if he's not careful.
Well, as far as I'm concerned at this present time and moment, enough with Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers need to come out, be done with it, say they've moved on. I don't care if they name Mason Rudolph QB1 at this present time and moment. I'd rather go with him at this point and then take a chance and try to get a quarterback in the third round or turn around, get rid of George Pickens, get our second round pick back, and take one of these second tier quarterbacks where they belong. And let's go get a defensive tackle, because right now, what we're doing on the defensive side of the ball, why does this feel like we are just putting together a band-aid of a mash unit here? I mean, Daniel Eagle, I mean, he turned 31 in January. I mean, what's this guy going to do for us from the Patriots? It's not like he's a Pro Bowler. It's not like he lit it up. He appeared with 7 games with the Browns in 19, 9 with the Jaguars in 2020 before he landed in New England. I mean, this guy he's definitely not something that I'm going to get excited about. And then on top of that, then what do? Evidently, the one thing I will say with all the defensive linemen we've picked up, they really scoured hard to try to find as many weird names as possible, because you think I'm going to go ahead and botch them up this year. Just wait till I turn around and say, hey, look at ZZ Otomowawo on the tackle. Come on, man. This guy got a 1-year contract. He hasn't even, he was a 5th round pick. What are we doing? I feel like, look, producer, you're a little young right now, but back in my day when we had what they called a record store, we used to be able to go in there, kind of thumb through the records, check out the new covers. But on the way out to the checkout, they had what they called the bargain bin. Okay. And basically it was CDs and records and tapes and stuff that hadn't sold. And you know what? That's where you picked up that $1 tape and thought, man, I got a gem. I am not feeling any gems right now.
Yeah, that's probably because these guys are all camp bodies. Well, depth pickups. I mean, you got Juan Thornhill, who's probably the best of the bargain bin pickups this week. That was this week, filling out the roster. I mean, these are guys you hope you don't see them on the field because they're backups. I mean, I'm trying to be nice, but the reality is, like, if you see Thornhill, it probably means something went wrong with Minka. He's probably hurt, for example. If you're seeing these guys, it probably means the D-line guys you mentioned probably means Cam's going down, which we don't want to see. But the reality is these guys are just backups trying to fill out the roster. I wouldn't really put much stock into them. They probably cost a vet minimum. We need somebody to play on the team. So, yeah.
So just even listening to you, I can hear like the how do I want to say this, man? Like there's no hope in your voice at this present time.
Well, I'm not saying there's not hope. I'm just saying, the moves we made this week, we made all the big moves last week, though. So these moves are kind of underwhelming, it seems like, compared to last week.
Wait a second. Big move. We made, as far as I'm concerned, we've made one move, and that was DK Metcalf. So let's just run it down here, okay? Real quick. All right, we've signed a bunch of our guys, okay? We resigned Loudermilk. We just signed Pierre today to another 1 year. We got Scotty Miller. We got Skoranek, right? We picked all those guys up. Did I miss anybody?
Yeah, it was Loudermilk. Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek, and what was James Pierre.
Oh, and don't forget Bad Moon Rising. Right? So we picked up those guys. And let's see here. Then we went out and we picked up Darius Slay. Darius Slay was good in his time. But this feels like a Peterson pick all over again, man. What are we really getting? Why are we still trying to find the recreation of Joe? It's like we got lucky with Joe, and even Joe wasn't that great when we picked him up from Cleveland. But Darius Slay, the only thing that I like coming out of his mouth is that he wants to get back to the game and he wants to go ahead and teach these young DBs. For that, keeping the depth chart cheap, as DJ said, okay, I'm on board with if he's going to give back. But Brandon Eccles, really? How about Kenneth Gainwell? Now, Kenneth Gainwell didn't do that much on a Super Bowl contending team. It's not like they had a very deep running back because they only had one running back. His name was Saquon, and he ended up with 2,000 yards. So, am I to believe that Kenneth was a great running back, just not as good as Saquon? I'm not sure I'm buying that one.
Well, I imagine he's just going to be the backup because we did tender Warren. So I imagine he's going to be a backup role. Warren's going to be the starter this year. He's going to do some of what Najee did. He's not as good as Najee, but he still fills that role, gives you somebody, in the room.
Well, look, the thing is that I see is Malik Harrison, linebacker. I don't know what it is, but evidently we're just doing bargain basement shopping in the AFC North.
Well, he's going to replace Roberts, I guess, which is run defense linebacker. It's not really something to get excited about, but somebody has to do it, I guess.
It is a nasty job, and somebody has to do it. You're right, and I like what DJ said too. The best thing about these guys is they want to be here because I want to talk about that as well. I'm not liking the fact that Najee's now out in California, which good for him. He got 1 year. But before you go talking smack, if you were really that good, Najee, don't you think they would have offered you more than 1 year?
Well, he only got $5 million, which is pretty much the same as Warren got. That's how the league views him when he only gets that market value. So he didn't have a market. So, it's clearly showing that, teams just didn't value him, like he thought.
Well, here's the thing, though. 1 year, $5 million. You couldn't have found a team that says, he's been healthy for the last 4 years, hasn't been hurt. We need a running back. Let's give him at least 2 years at $10 million. You couldn't even find a team to give you 2 years.
Well, I think Najee just wants to, get the 1 year deal and then hit the market again, if I had to guess.
Why would you want to go ahead and hit the market? You're back home. You're in California. You're right down the street from your boys. You're handing out turkeys on Thanksgiving, which is what you love to do.
Well, he's trying to get that big payday.
Well, I hope he gets a big payday. But in the meantime, I don't like the fact that he's out there throwing a little shade towards the Steelers, but I do have to question myself. He's like, the offense was young quarterback, didn't have no identity, didn't have a direction, didn't have a captain. The only captains were on defense. And then I'm sitting here thinking to myself, no, wait a minute, Najee, you've been with the team for 4 years. Now, I know that you haven't had a steady quarterback in those 4 years, but you have had some leadership in there. I mean, Mitch Trubisky, like him or not, was a veteran quarterback. That's some good leadership. You're going to tell me that Samola and James Daniels and Herbig were not veterans? You're going to tell me that Johnson was not a veteran? So if all of these guys are not veterans and there is no direction, no identity, no captain, Lord have mercy on us right now. Because at the end of the day, we're in trouble.
Well, yeah, that's the problem there. If he says there's no leadership, well, I mean, I thought Ross was a leader. Now, that's him off the field, his leadership qualities, not his play style, but I thought he was a leader at least. And, for Najee to say that, I think he's just trying to, say it was the Steelers and not him as to why he, bottomed out with the Steelers. Well, didn't do as well as he expected. The problem with him is, he lacks that, vision and a bit of explosiveness, that burst. And, that's why he wasn't as good here. I don't think it was really, about leadership or not. I think that's just, a point for him to say, an excuse to say why he wasn't working out here.
That's all we're doing is finger pointing. Is that what
we pretty much
finger pointing?
I do that all the time. I blame you for everything when you're not here, away on vacation.
You blame me for everything? Is this what the younger generation does now? There's no accountability, no responsibility, and it is all due to the fact that we can't make a commitment. That's probably why he only signed 1 year. He didn't want to make a commitment.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So now, at the end of the day here, we have basically we're on hold. We're on quarterback hold. There's nothing more to talk about. We're on quarterback hold.
Well, yeah, pretty much. We're waiting to see what Rodgers does. It seems like he's coming down to choosing between either the Giants or the Steelers. It seems like that's where it's headed, based on the reports.
All right. So now let's just throw this out there. I know it's a little early, but we did just get out of the combine. Who's the quarterback that you would like to see us pick up?
The guy I think I'm not sure if you saw the Steelers were meeting with him for dinner. Jalen Moreau. He's very similar to in Justin Fields' mold, but what I like about him, he has the traits similar to what Fields had and what you look for that in him. Now he might not be a first round guy, so maybe you trade back or trade back up from the third round to go get him. But he has that speed, like he's fast. He had like what a 4.4, 4.5 on his pro day just a few days ago. The team was meeting with him. I think he's a guy. He has that Alabama pedigree. Guys from that program just they've been coached well. Developed well. Think of guys like Jalen Hurts, who we just saw win the Super Bowl. Maybe he can develop like Jalen Hurts if given the chance. Here in Pittsburgh.
Do you really think he can develop like Jalen Hurts?
Oh hell no.
Okay, that's good. I just wanted to make sure because I was going to have to ask you. Hypothetically speaking, okay, because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what you've just said is we're looking for a running quarterback. We're not looking for a guy who can pass because I can tell you right now, Milroe could not hit the broadside of a barn if he was 2 foot in front of it.
Okay, yeah, well, that's similar to Fields, and if that's the prototype they like, I think he's probably an ideal option for them. If you have to be a mobile quarterback in this day and age of the NFL, it's just how it's trending.
Yeah, but you got to be able to complete a pass too, producer.
Well,
if you can't complete a pass, you're not a quarterback. Now, Fields could at least complete a pass. He could actually have an arm. Fields' problem, and I'll still stand by this today, is he doesn't know how to have a pre-snap read. He cannot read a defense.
Yep. Well,
so, I'm not sure I like Milroe. I don't like anything about the kid. I think that basically we'd be wasting a first-round pick on a third-round grade.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. He isn't the first round. I wouldn't take him the first round, frankly. He's one of those guys. He has traits, though. He doesn't. If you look at he doesn't have good film right now. He needs to develop, obviously. The type of guy you sit behind somebody. Maybe Mason. Starts the year and he comes in.
I'm so glad you said that because, producer, when I think quarterback coaches, the first guy that comes to my mind is Mason Rudolph. What an outstanding stud he is to teach a young quarterback how to play in the NFL. Basically, here's a mop, kid. Here's the bucket. Go clean up the mess hall.
Well,
by the way, let me show you what I've learned from Josh Dobbs on how to properly hold a clipboard.
Well, he was with Kevin O'Connell if he was with the Vikings. Or I think he was with the Titans last year, right? Hopefully he learned something.
You think that he got his best training right there with the Titans?
Hell no. They're picking number 1 again. I'm going to say no.
All right. So,
but I think this just points how bleak our quarterback situation is. And we're kind of in a corner and we're deciding between, we're in a rock and a hard place. And, there's really no good option to be
no, there really isn't. So I guess, though, if we do not get one, we're either A, going to be forced to trade down or B, forced to trade up. So if we're forced to do one or the other, would you rather see us trade up or trade down?
I prefer we trade down because we're currently missing a second-round pick. If we can recoup some draft picks, that'd be ideal because, not having a second-round pick, you might miss out on some talent, picks in the later rounds. But, if you can still move down, get your quarterback, in the early second round, that'd be great.
Okay. So now I've got to go ahead and ask you, if you trade down, who are you grabbing?
Well, the main guy they've been, putting to us, a guy who's in that, late first, early second round right now is Jackson Dart. Another guy with traits. You're taking a shot on. He hasn't really figured it out at the college level yet. Well, you're hoping you can develop him as well.
So here's the thing that I really love the most about all of this, all right, is Jackson Dart was a second rounder, maybe third round at best. All of a sudden, he's moved up to a late first round pick.
Well, I think he had a great pro day. The combine, those things can spike guys up, but also, as free agency plays out, more teams needing quarterback, he can shoot up the board.
Well, the one thing I'll say about Dart, he does have a very quick release. I do like that about him. The thing that I'm not too sold on is the kid a winner? I want a winner. When Ben came out of Miami, everybody was kind of, oh, he's a MAC quarterback. He's a MAC quarterback. But you want to know what Ben was? He was a winner. He was undefeated. He carried that string into the NFL his rookie year. He was a winner. That's what I liked about Ben. I'm not sure I have that same belief in Jackson. I don't believe I have it in Quinn Ewers. I damn sure know it ain't in Jalen. I mean, he couldn't lead the Alabama to a winning season. And all of a sudden he's like our number one. Come on. Let's be real here.
Well, so, I'm just thinking he's probably the most similar to Justin Fields, so I think he'd be a guy they look at. They've met with him at a dinner recently too, so they're actually he's on their watch list or top 30 visit or whatever it is.
Look, this whole thing I gone to dinner. I'm not quite sure I'm buying that either.
See if they wine and dine you.
If they wine and dine you. So if we're looking at winners, and the first kid that comes to my mind, I can't help it, is Will Howard. I love that kid right now. And nobody's talking about him. He didn't have a great combine, and I'm glad he didn't have a great combine. But when you put that kid in game situations, you go back and you look at every game except that Michigan game. That kid played with a purpose. And after that Michigan game, he put that team on his back, him and Smith. And even in 2 of those games for the championship, he didn't even use his number 1 wide receiver. He was still able to spread the ball. The other kid, but he's a little goofy and he just doesn't fit the Steeler mold, and that was Riley Leonard. That kid had a little bit of something in him. He just wasn't on a good enough Notre Dame team. Now, the last but not least is Tyler Show. Now, he has a lot of good traits, been around a long time. If we were to talk about a bridge quarterback, that would be him, because he was definitely in a heavy play action usage team. But again, I just don't know if he's got the traits. But when we're looking at a late round and Rudolph goes ahead and loses the first 4 of the season, and we need to put him in because we're on our way to Ireland, why not break out the rookie in Ireland? Cheers for beers for everybody.
Yeah. I could see that. There's a few guys like that, like Will Howard, the guy you just mentioned, Taylor So. And then there's also Kyler McCord, these guys who are, more, they lack the traits though. So as a flyer, a guy you want to take, I prefer to, rely on traits, because if you don't have those traits, you won't just make it in the NFL. That's just, how it works, unfortunately.
And you know what? I do kind of like Kyle McCord since you brought him up, because he's got a great IQ. He's at Stanford. I mean, let's face it, those boys are smart over there. He's got a quick trigger, and he was precision based as far as his passing goes. Does his numbers jump off the chart at you? No, but let's face it, Stanford's not a place where you just say, offense. It just doesn't ring there. But I think if where we're at right now is we tell Rodgers to go fly a kite, preferably in a dark, with a great big key on the end of the string, probably a little bit larger than Benjamin Franklin used, go into the draft and wait until the 3rd round to go ahead and pick up a quarterback. And if you can, If you can get good trade value out of George, I think we get rid of George. If not, you're going to ride that pony one more year, waiting for him to go ahead and throw his hissy fit on the side because DK Metcalf's getting all the passes and everybody loves him. Let him walk out in free agency, and then we do it all over again. Because that's the one thing that we can do is draft good wide receivers. We just haven't figured out how to draft a good wide receiver that's not a head case.
What is the requirement to be on an AB level to be a Steelers wide receiver?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a little crazy.
Well, I think we could franchise tag Pickens if it did come to that. Buy some more time to trade him or negotiate with him possibly.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I'd want to do with Pickens is alienate him even more. I like the way you're thinking, producer.
We're gonna keep him hostage.
Right? Why didn't I think of that? That's a great idea, producer.
Let's see
only good things can come out of that.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong, producer? What? Really? Well, I will tell you this. Looking at the Bengals this year, the Bengals definitely they committed a lot of. Yeah, they they committed a lot of money to that offense. $125 million, man, in 3 players.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about our defense being overpaid. Whoo, doggies. Man, they better hope that nothing happens to Burrow.
Yeah, they need to keep him upright. That's for sure.
Yeah, maybe
keep
they
him
might
away from TJ Watt, please.
Yeah, maybe they might want to go ahead and take a peek at Russell Wilson. Either that or throw their name in the hat for Rodgers.
Yeah, but they made Chase. They waited on him and they regretted it. They had to spend like $5 million more than Justin Jefferson, make him the highest paid non-quarterback. For only a few minutes before Parsons gets a deal as well. But he's going to be making a lot of money.
He is, and here's the other thing too. I'm a little bit surprised talking about the highest paid. I figured the deal would have already come out by now. I mean, we knew the deal for the Raiders defensive end, the rush end. Crosby, broke the bank. Then they went ahead in the NFL. Cleveland did it to us again. We thought Myles Garrett was going to walk, and they made him the highest and broke the bank. What are we going to have to do to keep TJ?
Oh God, it's gonna be a lot. That's a later problem.
That's a this year problem.
Oh, come on, man.
Look, if we don't re-sign him, he's on the market after the end of next season.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You'd probably have to pay him $40 million plus.
Well, you definitely got to pay him more than Myles Garrett. You already know there's a beef between those two on who should be the defensive player of the year. And I mean, he did snub him at the ceremony 2 years ago. Of course, you got to pay him more.
Well, it's going to be $40 million and 1 penny. 1 penny more.
1 penny more. Okay, 1 penny more. Well, I guess only time will tell, and we will have to wait and see. One last thing to go ahead and discuss, man. Have you went ahead and have you been keeping up? We're going to get off the Steelers right now because I want to talk a little bit about
I was gambling on March Madness earlier. Was that it?
No, we're not talking about the Great Pumpkin Chase. This is the wrong show for the Great Pumpkin Chase. Matter of fact, go fill out your brackets, get them up to date. No, I want to talk about the proposed NFL rule changes. I thought some of them were
all right. I saw that
some pretty good. I'm a little bit torn on the push tush rule change. I think that you got a bunch of people who are just jealous that the Eagles have been able to perfect this thing over the last 3 years, and many people have tried, and the closest is probably the Bills that have come to it. But then I sit here and I think about the Super Bowl, and man, Kansas City lost their number one defensive end to that play.
Yeah, he got hurt on that one play. Jones got he hit his neck or something.
Yeah, ended up, and of course he never came back. And then I got to thinking about that, man. This is very hard on a defensive player when you think about it. You were going up against 333-pound guys. Normally, your nose tackle is that big. but your defensive tackles aren't so much. Your ends definitely are not. And then on top of that, you've got somebody coming from behind at another 2.25, 230 pounds, pushing as well. Somebody's probably going to get hurt. And
Yeah, it
if
seems like a
it,
very dangerous play with all that coming in both directions. Somebody's going to fall on somebody and go kaplat.
yeah, the way that the league keeps talking about safety, I think that this is one of those situations that you have to really look at this and then really decide, is this really worth it or not?
Mhm. Yeah, I would expect them to get rid of it for safety reasons, but also considering it has like a success rate of 90% or plus, they might look at it as like a cheat code sometimes.
It is. It is. Well, then the next one that I seen there that was pretty interesting was the playoff change proposal by the Lions.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that? They want, instead of having the four division teams, it's been that way forever and a day. Your leaders get the top four seeds. In the old days, it was the top three seeds.
Mhm.
But now they want to be able to put it in, I guess, how do you want to say that? Numerical order, wins, loss columns, 1 through 7. And then that's how it lines up. I'm not quite sure if I agree with that or not.
I think it's I'm not really a big fan of it. It would mean divisional winners would be playing like the lowest record one, like the 4 seed would be playing the 7 seed instead. Because they had the lowest record or however it works. But basically, it's because the Lions and Vikings each had 14 wins, and one of them ends up being the 5 seed. They would have ended up the 2 seed if they changed the rules to that.
And I get all that. But if you're really that good, why do you need to line up 1, 2, 3, 4? Why don't you go ahead and go in there as the lower seed, even though you're taking on a higher seed, and let the best team win? Basically, what you're saying is you don't feel like you can beat a lesser opponent, or you can't beat the same style opponent, but you at least want one win, and you just got embarrassed because you were one and done.
Yeah, I don't see a change needed. It's just that weird scenario where two division teams had 14 wins, which never happens. You shouldn't change the rule because of one outlier.
No, I agree. I agree. The other thing that I thought was interesting was looking at the overtime rule and basically taking it from 10 minutes to 15 minutes, and it wouldn't end if the team that got the ball first scored a touchdown. But I can't help but think to myself, why are we even going the length of the field? Why don't we adopt more of what the high school and college is doing and just line them up to the left and line them up to the right? Let them
Yeah,
run
I
10
like to.
yards out, 20 yards out, then 10 yards out, then 5 yards out.
Yeah, that would make more sense. More college roles. College roles are working well. I don't know why the NFL doesn't use more of them.
And I think that that would be a pretty good way to settle the overtime. Make it a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, overtime's boring. It feels like both teams just trying to run out the clock.
Right. It becomes more of a chess match than it does an actual football game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
more
unless you prefer that
analytics.
defensive-minded football, don't let the other team score.
I don't mind the defensive minded football, but we've heard it time and time again. Being a Steelers fan, we'll bend, but we don't break when we get down along the goal line. You know what I mean? So from a defensive mind, you got a shorter field to deal with, which is in the favor of the defense, which means that your offense needs to be precision. Maybe I shouldn't say this because we haven't had a precision offense in a couple of years. So we get in overtime, we automatically just might as well hang the white flag and walk off the field. But just saying.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I don't think we should change the rules. Overtime's pretty good as it is. Ugh.
Well, what do you think about the illegal contact and defensive holding penalties that the Lions also want to not it be a automatic first down?
Now that one I understand. In college, players would just push people off because they know they're getting the 15-yard penalty. Kind of take advantage of the rule in college. Versus the NFL, it's more serious. I think that rule actually makes a lot of sense to me.
You think so?
Yeah, because players in college would just, if they're going to get beat, they just toss them to the ground, because they know it's only a 15-yard penalty.
All right. I can see
Whereas
that.
a spot foul, is more appropriate because it should have been like a, 40-yard touchdown, if he hadn't done that usually.
All right. Well, another one that I thought was interesting is our beloved Steelers proposed that the teams would be allowed to have one video call or phone call with a prospective unrestricted free agent from other teams and their agents during the 2-day negotiation window.
I mean, I see where they're going with that, but I don't think they'll allow that because of the fears of tampering, becoming even worse.
Well, I don't know. If you're going to go ahead and allow that, I think that you're now above water and you should have a league representative on that call as an arbitrator just to make sure nobody crosses the boundaries.
Well, yeah, it's a very delicate situation because the NFL is pretty serious when it comes to, tampering. So, they probably won't allow that, but I do see where they're going. It would make more sense to have more contact with the players, but, the NFL just won't allow that, if I had to guess.
All right. Well, the only other one that I see that's even more pertaining is the special kicking balls. They want to be able to prepare them. How do you prepare them? Do you throw them in the oven? Do you bounce them off the sidewalk? Do you give them to your nephew and let him run around the field while everybody's out there stretching? What do you do to prepare a special ball?
Special ball? I don't know. Beats me. You mean for the kicker?
That's what it says. Special kicking balls before the game.
All I heard was kicking balls, and
And that was, you thought that this was TikTok video stuff, that you just had little guys running up, the ball guys running up around, kicking the other dudes in the nuts, preparing them. Is that what you thought?
Well, I thought that, but
you thought,
I mean, I guess they just prepare a bunch of balls for the kicker before the game. Usually, I thought.
I see.
You'd have to ask Tom Brady how it's done.
Right. Deflategate. He has that all under control. You're right. All right. Well, do you have anything else, young man?
Well, hopefully we pick up some more players next week. Free agency is full in swing. I'm excited for the draft. We'll add somebody. Maybe we'll add a quarterback at some point. That's about it. All right. Well, I myself want to wake up tomorrow and see that Rodgers has said he was going to go ahead and retire. That's what I'd like to see tomorrow. But that's not going to happen. Yeah, we all know he's going to Pittsburgh, unfortunately.
Is that what you think?
I mean, if I had to put money on it.
If you had to put money, I wouldn't bet at all.
Okay, fine.
All right. Well, with that being said, Steelers Nation, thanks for tuning in as usual. Hopefully you guys had a good time tonight. We did. And most importantly, enjoy your evening. Producer, we're out of here.
Yep. Good night. Careful in the hot tub.
Check back next week into the Steelers realm.